All they did was eat. That was the truth, simple and clear. But to their stepfather it was a crime too heavy to forgive. In his cold eyes the children were nothing but hungry mouths, weak hands, and useless burdens. He never saw them as family. He never saw them as his own. The colony was quiet that night. Shadows stretched across metal walls, and the faint hum of broken machines filled the air. The children sat around a small table, plates empty, bellies still aching for more. They had eaten the last of the bread, and for a moment they felt safe, warm, and full. But safety never lasted in that house, not with him watching. Their stepfather stood in the doorway, his tall frame blocking the light. His eyes burned with cold fire. "You eat too much," he whispered, voice sharp like a knife. The children froze, hands trembling, lips pressed tight. One child tried to explain, voice shaking. "We were hungry, But he slammed the wall with his hand, and silence swallowed the room. The truth was bitter. He never wanted them, he only kept them because their mother was gone. And now that she was gone, he saw no reason to stay either. The youngest child clung to her sister's arm, her voice soft. "Please don't go." But he didn't answer. He turned away, heavy footsteps echoing down the corridor. The door creaked open, cold air rushing inside. And then, with a sound like the end of everything, it shut silence. He was gone. At first they did not understand. They waited, thinking he would return, maybe with anger, maybe with food, maybe with nothing at all. But hours passed. The night grew long. The wind outside howled against the walls, and slowly, painfully, they realized they were alone. The oldest child tried to stay calm, to keep the others from crying. "We will be fine," he said, though his voice cracked like broken glass. "We still have each other." But deep inside, fear grew like a shadow that refused to leave. They were just children. How could they survive without a father? How could they live in a colony that hated them for what they were? Human. Outside their home, the world was not kind. The colony belonged to others, alien beings who saw humans as strange creatures, noisy and greedy. The neighbors had always whispered, "Humans eat too much. Humans are weak. Humans should not be here." And now, without their stepfather, the children knew those whispers would become louder, sharper, dangerous. That night, they sat close together in the dark. The youngest child asked, "Why did he leave us?" No one answered because no one knew, or maybe deep down they all did. He never loved them, not once, and maybe he never would. The air inside grew cold, and fear wrapped around them like chains. Every sound outside felt like a threat. Every creak in the walls felt like a warning. The shadows grew long and silence felt heavier than stone. It pressed on their hearts, on their minds, until one thought became clear. They were abandoned. Morning came, but it brought no comfort. The sun was pale, hidden behind thick clouds of dust that hung over the colony skies. The children stepped outside, eyes wide, stomachs empty again. The neighbors stared, their alien eyes cold. No one offered help. No one spoke kindly. They only watched, as if waiting for the children to fall. The youngest stumbled on the path, weak from hunger. Her sister caught her, holding her close. Tears filled their eyes, but they swallowed them back. They had to be strong, even when the world wanted them weak. As the day passed, they searched for food, but their stepfather had taken everything. The cupboards were bare, the storage empty. The children felt the weight of hopelessness pressing harder. Even breathing felt heavy. The oldest tried again to stay strong. "We will find a way," he whispered. But his words shook like leaves in the wind, because deep down he did not believe them. That night they returned to the empty house, their shadows long against the walls, their hearts beating fast. The youngest clung tighter, whispering, "I'm scared." The oldest held her close. "I know," he said softly. And then, as silence stretched again, they heard it. A sound. Footsteps. Slow. Steady. Heavy. Not like their stepfather's. Different. Stronger. The children froze, eyes wide, breath caught in their throats. Someone was. Outside the door trembled, the air grew heavy, they waited. Fear rushing like fire through their veins, and then a voice low and deep spoke through the door. You are not alone. The door never opened again. Their stepfather did not return. The children sat in silence, waiting, hoping. But the night stretched on and the house stayed empty. The wind outside howled like a warning, rattling the thin walls of their home. They were truly alone. At first, they tried to believe it was only for a short time. Maybe he went to find work, or maybe he needed space. But as hours turned into days, hope began to crumble. The cupboards stayed bare, the table stayed empty, and their small bodies grew weaker with every passing hour. The oldest child took the role of protector. He forced a smile, told the younger ones, "We will be fine. We only need to be strong." But inside, his stomach twisted with fear. He was just a child himself. He did not know how to keep them safe. He only knew he had to try. The colony outside was no friend to them. The streets were filled with tall alien figures, their faces sharp, their eyes cold. They walked past the children without a word, or worse, with whispers that cut deeper than knives. Humans eat too much. Humans are trouble. Better if they disappear. The children lowered their heads, walking quickly, hoping to be unseen. But no matter how quiet they were, they always felt eyes following them, watching, judging, waiting for them to stumble. One afternoon, the youngest girl tripped in the dust. She fell hard, scraping her knees. Her small cry echoed in the street, but no one came to help. Instead, the aliens laughed, shaking their heads, muttering in voices full of disdain. The oldest helped her up, brushing dirt from her skin, whispering, "Don't listen, don't cry, we have each other, that is enough." But even as he said it, he felt the lie pressing heavy against his chest. At night, hunger became their greatest enemy. The walls groaned with the cold wind. Their stomachs growled louder. They huddled together under a thin blanket, their breaths shallow. The youngest whispered, "Why did he leave us?" No one answered because no answer would make sense. All they knew was this: he was gone and they were forgotten. On the second night, strange noises echoed outside their home, claws scraping against metal, low growls vibrating in the dark. The children held each other tightly, eyes wide, hearts racing. The oldest whispered, "Stay quiet, don't move." Shadows shifted under the door, heavy footsteps pressed against the dust. And then, silence. The intruders left. But the fear stayed. Every sound became a threat, every silence a trap. By the third day, food was nearly gone. All they had left were scraps, crumbs too small to fill their stomachs. The oldest tried to ration them, giving the younger ones more, pretending he wasn't hungry. But his hands shook, his body weak, his mind heavy with exhaustion. He stared at the empty plates and thought, how much longer can we survive like this? Desperation pushed them outside. They wandered the colony market, staring at the stalls, the smell of roasted food burning their empty bellies. The youngest reached toward a piece of bread, but before she could touch it, a sharp hand slapped hers away. The vendor sneered, "Pay or leave, filthy human." The children fled, hearts pounding, ashamed and afraid. Even survival seemed forbidden. That night, the oldest sat awake while the others slept. He stared at the door, listening to the emptiness. His mind swirled with questions he could not answer. Why did their mother leave them with such a man? Why did their stepfather hate them so deeply? Why did no one care if they lived or died? The silence offered no answers, only the sound of the younger children breathing softly beside him, fragile and innocent. And then, it came again. Footsteps outside. Slow, steady, heavier than before. The boy tensed, his breath sharp. Shadows moved under the door. He reached for a broken piece of metal, the only thing he could use as a weapon. His hands trembled, but he held it tight. The footsteps stopped. Silence thickened. Then a voice, low, calm, steady. "You are not safe here," it said. The boy froze, staring at the door. The voice continued, "But I can help you." The younger children stirred, rubbing their eyes, whispering in fear. "Who is that?" The boy didn't answer, his heart thundered. He thought of their stepfather's cold eyes, of the neighbors' cruel whispers. No one had ever spoken to them with concern. No one had ever said the words, "I can help you." Suspicion battled with hope. Could it be a trick? Or was this voice something different? The door creaked slightly, not forced, not broken, but waiting. The boy tightened his grip on the piece of metal, his voice shaky but firm. "Who are you?" A pause, then the voice answered, "Not your enemy. I am human. Like you." The words struck like lightning. Human. It had been so long since they heard that word spoken without contempt. The boy's eyes widened, the younger ones clung to his arms, hope and fear twisted together in his chest. He did not know if he should open the door, but deep down, something told him the world was about to change. The children stared at the door. The voice outside was steady, calm and unfamiliar, but one word repeated in their minds: human. It was rare to hear that word spoken without hatred. It was rare to hear it at all. The boy's grip on the broken piece of metal tightened. He did not trust easily, not after what they had lived through. The younger ones pressed closer, their small hands clutching his arms. Fear mixed with hope, sharp and heavy. What if this was a trick? What if danger waited? On the other side, the voice came again, softer this time. "I know you are afraid, but you don't have to be. I will not harm you." The boy swallowed, his throat dry. "How do we know that?" he asked, his voice shaking. Silence. Then the reply. "Because I was once like you, a child left behind, hungry, afraid." The words sank deep, cutting through fear. Could it be true? Another human. Someone who understood? The boy slowly stood, his legs weak, his eyes locked on the door. He whispered to his siblings, "Stay behind me." They nodded, their eyes wide and frightened. With trembling fingers, he reached for the handle. The door creaked, opening just enough to reveal a figure standing in the shadows. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wrapped in a worn coat that had seen many battles. His face was rough but not cruel. His eyes, deep and steady, carried a weight of sorrow and strength. He looked at the children not with disgust, not with anger, but with something else, something they had not seen in a long time. Kindness. The boy held the broken metal up like a weapon, his hands shaking. "Who are you?" he demanded. The man raised his hand slowly, palms open. "My name is Marcus," he said. "I am human, like you." The children stared, their breath shallow. The boy whispered, "Why are you here?" Marcus's eyes softened. "Because no child should be left alone." The words struck hard. The boy lowered the metal slightly, still unsure but curious. He had never heard anyone speak like that. Not their stepfather, not the neighbors, not anyone. Marcus stepped closer, his movements slow, careful. "I saw what happened," he said, his voice low. "I know your stepfather is gone. I know no one else will help you." His eyes moved over the children, their thin arms, their tired faces. "You need food, you need safety, you need someone who will not leave you." The boy wanted to believe, but fear still pulled at him. "Why would you care?" he asked, almost angry. Marcus knelt, bringing himself to the boy's level. "Because once I was like you," he whispered, "and someone cared for me. That is why I'm alive today." The room was silent, only the sound of the wind pressing against the walls. The children exchanged glances, their eyes full of doubt and hope. Marcus reached into his coat slowly and pulled out a small pack. He set it on the ground and slid it forward. Inside was food, simple but real: bread, dried fruit, and water. The children's eyes widened, their stomachs growling with hunger. The boy hesitated, torn between fear and need. Marcus nodded gently. "Take it. It's yours." The youngest girl stepped forward, trembling. Her small hand reached out, grabbing a piece of bread. She bit into it, tears filling her eyes. The taste of food after so long was too much. The others followed, eating quickly, as if afraid it might vanish. Marcus watched, his face calm, his eyes heavy with something unspoken. After the hunger eased, the boy looked at Marcus again. He asked, "Will you leave us too?" Marcus's jaw tightened, his voice firm. "No, I will not." The boy studied his face, searching for lies. But all he saw was truth. For the first time, he felt the weight of his fear lift slightly. The younger children gathered closer to Marcus. Curiosity breaking through their fear. "Are there more like us?" the girl asked softly. Marcus's eyes darkened, sadness flashing across his face. "Not many," he said. "Humans are few here, scattered, unwanted. But you are not alone anymore." The boy lowered the broken metal completely, his arms, finally relaxing. He did not know why, but he believed this man. Something in Marcus's voice carried strength, something his stepfather never had. Not cruelty, not anger, but loyalty. Outside, the colony streets echoed with distant noises. The world beyond their door was still dangerous, still filled with enemies. But inside, for the first time, the children felt a spark of safety. It was fragile, small, but real. They did not know what the future held. But they knew one thing now. They were not abandoned anymore. Marcus looked at them, his voice steady. "You are stronger than you think," he said, "and I will teach you how to survive." The children listened, their hearts still heavy but their spirits stirring. Hope, faint but alive, grew inside them. And so the night that began with fear ended with something new. A stranger had appeared, not to hurt them, not to leave them, but to stay. And though they did not yet know it, their lives had just changed forever. The days after Marcus arrived were different. The air inside the small house no longer felt so heavy. The children still woke hungry, still felt the cold at night, but they also felt something new. Hope. Marcus stayed, true to his word. He did not vanish like their stepfather. He did not turn away when they cried. Instead, he gave them food, shared his strength, and spoke to them as if they mattered. It was strange at first, almost frightening. They were not used to kindness, but slowly they began to trust. On the third morning, Marcus gathered them outside the house. The dust of the colony swirled around their feet, the sky a pale gray. "You have survived because you are strong," he told them, his voice steady. "But strength is not only in the body. It is here," he said, tapping his temple. "And here," he added, pressing a hand to his chest. The children listened closely, their eyes wide. No one had ever spoken to them like this before. He began teaching them step by step how to walk quietly, how to notice danger before it came, how to ration food, how to stay calm when fear pressed heavy. At first, they struggled, their bodies weak from hunger and neglect. The youngest stumbled. The boy grew frustrated. The middle child cried when she failed. But Marcus never raised his voice in anger. He only said, "Again." And so they tried again. Every lesson carried weight. He showed them how to hold a stick like a weapon, how to defend themselves against someone larger, how to use the ground, the shadows, the walls. "You are not helpless," Marcus said, his eyes firm. "Others want you to believe you are weak, but you are not." The words sank deep into their hearts, planting seeds of strength. Even in small things, Marcus trained them. He made them carry water from the well, even when it was heavy. He taught them how to build a fire, even in the cold winds. He forced them to think, to plan, to believe they could survive without begging. Every night their bodies ached, their hands sore, their legs trembling, but every night they slept a little stronger. Still, danger was never far. The colony was restless. Whispers grew louder. Humans with a human protector. They should not be here. They will bring trouble. The neighbors watched more closely now, eyes sharp, voices bitter. The children noticed, but Marcus only said, "Let them talk. Their words are smoke. Your strength will be fire." One evening, as the sun sank behind the colony walls, Marcus led them to the edge of the settlement. The world beyond stretched wide, a desert of dust and stone. Out there, he said, pointing to the horizon, there are dangers, raiders, beasts, storms, but there is also freedom. The children shivered at the thought. They had only known the narrow streets of the colony, but Marcus spoke of other places, far away, places where humans were not hated, where they could build something new. His words lit sparks in their minds, dreams they had never dared to hold. That night, as they rested, strange noises echoed again outside the house, claws against metal, low growls, shadows shifting. The boy reached for the broken piece of metal he still kept beside him, but Marcus placed a steady hand on his shoulder. "Do not fear the sound," he whispered. "Fear only comes when you are not ready." He stood, tall and unshaken, watching the door. The shadows passed, the noises faded, and the children realized something powerful. With Marcus there, they were not as afraid. Days turned into weeks, and the change in the children became clear. Their steps grew steadier, their voices stronger. They laughed sometimes, small and quick, like sparks in the dark. The youngest no longer cried every night. The boy no longer trembled when he heard footsteps outside. They were still children, still fragile, but they were no longer helpless. Marcus watched them closely, his eyes soft but sad. He saw their growth, their courage, their hunger for survival. But he also knew the world would not stay still. The colony was stirring with something darker. He had heard the whispers in the market, seen the looks from alien guards. Something was coming, something dangerous, and the children would need more than lessons. They would need fire in their hearts. One evening, after training, Marcus sat with them in silence. The stars above glimmered faintly through the dusty skies. The boy finally asked, "Why do you help us?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment, his face shadowed, then he answered, "Because once someone helped me when I was lost, when I thought I was nothing." His voice grew firmer. "And because no one deserves to be abandoned, not you, not anyone." The children listened, their hearts swelling with something they had almost forgotten. Belonging. For the first time since their mother's death, for the first time since their stepfather walked away, they felt part of something, a family, not by blood but by choice, and sometimes choice was stronger. But as the night deepened, Marcus's eyes grew darker. He looked toward the colony walls, and in a voice low and steady, he said, "They will come for us soon." The children froze, fear returning like a cold wave. "Who?" The youngest whispered. Marcus did not look away from the horizon. "Raiders," he said. "Or worse." The warning came with the wind. The colony gates groaned in the night, and distant horns echoed across the dusty sky. Marcus rose from his place at the door, his eyes sharp. "They are here," he said, his voice steady. The children froze, their small bodies trembling. "Who?" the boy asked, though his heart already knew. Marcus's answer was cold. "Raiders," the youngest whimpered, clinging to her sister's arm. The boy gripped his broken piece of metal, his stomach twisting. Marcus crouched in front of them, his eyes strong and calm. "Listen to me," he said. "This is your first test. You are not weak, you are not helpless. But you must be brave." Outside, shouts rose, cruel laughter mixing with the screech of alien voices. The colony guards pretended not to hear. The neighbors shut their doors, hiding in silence. The children realized the truth. No one would help them, only Marcus, only themselves. The door rattled as heavy hands pounded against it. "Humans!" a voice snarled. "Come out!" The youngest cried softly, but Marcus pressed a finger to his lips. "Quiet," he whispered. "Fear gives them power." The pounding grew louder, the walls shaking. Then, with a crash, the raiders forced the door open. They flooded inside, tall, sharp-faced, eyes glowing with greed. Their weapons glinted in the dim light. The children shrank back, but Marcus stepped forward, standing between them and danger. His voice was steady, firm. "You will not touch them." The raiders laughed, their leader sneering. "A lone human protecting children? You will die first." The fight began like a storm. Sudden and violent, Marcus moved with strength the children had never seen. Every strike was precise, every movement filled with purpose. He blocked a blade with his arm, twisted, and sent the raider crashing to the ground. The children gasped, their fear mixing with awe. This was not their stepfather's anger. This was controlled, powerful, unbreakable, but there were too many. More raiders poured in, circling them. Marcus fought hard, but even he could not stand forever. He turned his head, shouting, "Remember what I taught you." The boy's heart pounded. Could he? Could a child stand against monsters like these? One raider lunged for the youngest girl, his claws outstretched. Without thinking, the boy swung his broken piece of metal. It struck the raider's arm, weak but sharp enough to cut. The raider roared in pain, stumbling back. The boy stood frozen, his hands shaking, but Marcus's voice cut through. "Good. Again." The middle child grabbed a burning stick from the fire and thrust it toward another raider. He snarled, stepping back from the flame. For the first time, the children were not only hiding, they were fighting. Marcus struck down another enemy, but his voice remained steady, guiding them. "Do not fear them. They bleed like we do. Use your mind, not only your hands." The children moved clumsily, but they moved with courage. Together, they pushed the raiders back step by step. The leader growled in fury, his glowing eyes narrowing. "You are nothing, weak little creatures." But Marcus stood tall, blood on his face, his eyes burning. "They are not weak," he said. "They are human." The battle raged until the raiders, bruised and cut, finally stumbled back. Their leader hissed, pointing a clawed hand, "This is not over." And with that, they fled into the night, their shadows melting into the dust. Silence fell, broken only by the sound of the children's heavy breaths. The boy dropped his broken weapon, his arms trembling. The youngest cried softly, but not from fear, from relief. They were alive. Marcus looked at them, his chest rising and falling. "You see?" he said, his voice still strong. "You are not helpless. You stood against them and you survived." The children stared at him, their eyes wide with awe. They had never believed such a thing was possible, but tonight they had fought, and tonight they had won. The boy whispered, "We did it." Marcus knelt, placing a hand on his shoulder. "No," he said firmly, "we did it together." The youngest crawled into Marcus's arms, her small voice trembling. "Will they come back?" Marcus's eyes darkened, his jaw tight. "Yes," he said, "they will." The children's hearts sank, but Marcus's next words gave them strength. "And when they do, we will be ready." That night, the house was broken, the door shattered, the floor stained with dust and blood. But inside, the children felt something new. Pride. They were still afraid, but not the same kind of fear. It was not the helpless fear of being abandoned. It was the sharp, burning fear of warriors before. Another fight. They lay close together as the night grew quiet again. The boy whispered to his sisters, "We are not alone anymore." And in the shadows, Marcus kept watch, his eyes fixed on the dark horizon, because he knew this was only the beginning. The first test was over, greater ones would come. The night after the raid was heavy with silence. The door hung broken on its hinges, the walls scarred from claws and blades. The children sat close together, their bodies aching, their hearts still. Racing from the fight, Marcus stood near the doorway, his eyes sharp. Scanning the shadows outside, he had not slept. He would not sleep, not while danger could return. The children watched him, their fear slowly changing into something else. Trust. For the first time in their lives, they had stood against enemies and survived, not because of luck, not because of their stepfather, but because Marcus had fought beside them. He had shielded them, guided them, and believed in them when no one else ever had. By morning, the children were exhausted, but they were also proud. The boy whispered to his sisters, "We fought. We lived." The youngest nodded, her small eyes shining. "Marcus made us strong." And for a moment they almost smiled. Even in the broken house, Marcus gathered them outside, where the colony walls rose tall and gray. The neighbors stared, whispering behind closed shutters. Humans should not resist, they muttered. They should have died. But Marcus ignored them. He stood tall, his coat torn, his face scarred, but his presence unshaken. He looked at the children with a rare softness. "You are more than survivors now," he said. "You are becoming something greater." The children clung to his words. It felt strange to hear someone speak of them with pride. Their stepfather had only called them weak, useless, greedy. But Marcus's voice was different, firm, steady, unbreakable. He made them believe in themselves, even when their hands still trembled. In the days that followed, Marcus stayed. He did not leave in the morning. He did not vanish when the nights grew long. Every sunrise, he was there, teaching them more. He showed them how to build stronger walls, how to patch the broken door, how to make traps to warn of danger. He taught them how to stand with their feet firm, how to hold a weapon with steady hands. Even the youngest practiced, her small arms weak but determined. "You are never too small to fight for yourself," Marcus told her. And she believed him. But it wasn't only survival Marcus gave them. He gave them something deeper. He listened when they spoke. He laughed when they tried. He carried the youngest on his shoulders. When she grew tired, he told them stories of the stars, of worlds where humans once walked freely, strong and unafraid. For the first time in their lives, the children felt what it was like to have a father. Not a man who stayed because he had to, but a man who chose to. The boy noticed it most. He had always tried to be strong for his sisters, always carried the weight of fear alone. But with Marcus, he no longer had to pretend. One night, when the others slept, he asked, "Will you leave us too?" Marcus was silent for a moment, the firelight flickering across his scarred face. Then he placed a heavy hand on the boy's shoulder. "No," he said firmly. "I will not." The boy's eyes stung with tears, but he held them back. He nodded, feeling a weight he had carried for so long finally begin to lift. The children began to change. They no longer walked with their heads down in the colony streets. They walked taller, their steps more certain. The whispers of the neighbors still followed them, cruel and sharp. Humans eat too much. Humans should stay weak. But the children no longer shrank from the words. Because they knew the truth, they were not weak anymore. Still, danger was never far. Raiders would return, Marcus had promised them that. And beyond the colony walls, storms gathered, wild and deadly. But fear no longer ruled their hearts because they knew that whatever came, they would not face it alone. One evening, as the sky burned red with sunset, Marcus sat with them on the broken steps of their home. The youngest leaned against his arm, her small voice soft. "You fight like a soldier," she said. Marcus's eyes darkened. "I was," he admitted. The boy looked up, curious. "What happened?" Marcus's voice grew low, heavy with memory. "I lost everything once," he said. "A family, a home, all because I was not there to protect them." His hands clenched, his jaw tight. "I swore I would never fail again." The children listened, in silence, their hearts heavy with his pain. And in that moment they understood why he stayed. He was not only protecting them, he was healing something inside himself too. The bond between them grew deeper, stronger, like roots digging into the earth. They were no longer strangers brought together by chance. They were becoming a family, not perfect, not whole, but real. That night, as they lay close under the stars, the youngest whispered, "Marcus is our real father." The boy smiled faintly in the dark, his chest warm. "Yes," he whispered back, "he is." And though none of them said it aloud, they all felt it. Their stepfather had abandoned them, but in his absence they had found something far greater, a human who chose to stay, a human who believed in them, a human who had become their true father. But Marcus, watching the dark horizon, knew the truth. Family gave them strength, yes, but family would also be tested, and the greatest test had not yet come. The colony never forgot the night the raiders came. Whispers spread like fire through the streets. Human children survived. They fought back. They had a protector. The neighbors who once mocked them now watched with uneasy eyes. Fear and curiosity mixed in every glance. The children no longer walked as shadows. They stood straighter, their steps firm, their heads held high. The boy carried himself with quiet pride, his sisters at his side, and always Marcus walked with them, not behind, not ahead, but beside, like a father who belonged to them. The alien guards began to take notice. They did not like what they saw. Humans were supposed to be weak, helpless, forgettable, but these children were not. And the man who led them carried himself like a soldier who had seen many wars. Danger brewed not just outside the walls now, but within. One morning, a messenger arrived at their broken house. The colony officials demanded Marcus and the children come to the council hall. The boy felt his stomach twist with fear, but Marcus placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "Stand tall," he said. "Do not let them see fear." The hall was filled. With cold faces, alien leaders sat high on stone chairs, their eyes sharp and unforgiving. The neighbors crowded around, whispering, "There they are. The abandoned ones, the human who should not be here." The council leader leaned forward, his voice deep and sharp. "You have caused trouble," he said, staring at Marcus. "You trained these children, you fought raiders, you made others afraid." Marcus did not flinch, his voice steady. "I protected them when no one else would." The leader hissed. "They should have been left to die. That is the way of things here." The youngest girl stepped forward, her small voice breaking through the silence. "No," she said firmly. "They left us, but Marcus stayed." Her words echoed in the hall louder than shouts. The crowd stirred, shocked at her courage. The boy followed, his voice steady though his heart pounded. "You called us weak, but we fought, we lived. We are human, and we are strong." Murmurs spread, some angry, some thoughtful. For the first time the children were not silent, they were heard. The stepfather appeared then, drawn by the whispers of survival, his face pale, his eyes hollow with regret. He looked at the children he had abandoned, but they did not run to him. They did not cry for him. They only stared, cold, distant, unchanged. He opened his mouth, but no words came because he saw it clearly. He had lost them forever. Marcus stepped forward, his shadow long across the stone floor. "These children," he said, his voice deep and unshakable, "were abandoned by blood but not by choice. They are my family now." The council leader snarled. "You cannot claim them. You are nothing." Marcus's eyes burned with fire. "No," he said. "I am human, and that means something." The hall fell into silence. For so long, the word human had been spoken with scorn. But in that moment it sounded different. It sounded strong, proud, unbreakable. The children stood beside him, their small shoulders straight, their eyes unafraid. For the first time, they were not ashamed of who they were. They were not just abandoned mouths to feed. They were survivors, warriors, family, and in their hearts they knew the truth. Their real father was not the man who left. It was the man who stayed. Outside, the colony stirred with unrest. Some aliens spat in anger, but others lowered their heads uneasy. They had seen something they could not deny. Humans, weak no longer. Humans, standing tall. That night, as the children sat with Marcus under the pale stars, they spoke softly. The youngest whispered, "He came back, but I don't care." Marcus nodded, his eyes steady. "You should not care," he said. "Family is not who leaves. Family is who stays." The boy looked at him, his voice quiet but sure. "You are our father." Marcus's eyes softened, his jaw tightening with emotion he rarely showed. "Yes," he said, "and I always will be." The children leaned against him, their bodies weary but their spirits alive. They no longer felt like outcasts, no longer felt like shadows. They belonged. not because the colony accepted them, but because they had each other. In the silence of the night, the boy thought back to the words that had begun everything. All we did was eat too much. He almost smiled. Yes, they had been hungry, weak, abandoned, but because of that hunger, because of that abandonment, they had found something greater. They had found a real father, and through him, they had found themselves. The colony could whisper, the raiders could return, the storms could rise, but nothing could take away what they had built, because for the first time in their lives they were not afraid. For the first time they were proud to say, "We are human."